Yeah. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry, my phone was muted. But super excited to be here with you all. If you're here with me today, go ahead and type in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. I am live on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And I am excited about this topic as usual. This is my day 3 of my series 30 Days of Systems That Make Teams Work. And I'm super excited to be here. And so let's dive right in. We're going to be talking about feedback loops. Okay. So recently, I have been working with a various amount of different teams, and um, it's not even recent that I'm noticing this, but I'm noticing this a lot where there is this lack of understanding of feedback and what feedback does to the overall system. We tend to think of feedback very linearly, and we think that feedback is just about telling someone what they did good or what they did wrong. And what I'm noticing is that most people don't understand that feedback is so much greater than this. It's a cyclical process, and it's not just linear back and forth, and that it impacts the system so much, so much. But yet we shy away from understanding and knowing everything about a feedback system. And basically, what we think is that feedback loops specifically mean that I'm just going to gather opinions, I'm going to gather information, which there is a part of that. But overall, feedback loops show us the cause and effect so that we can make decisions that are rooted in some type of data or some type of facts and help us to have the influence that we want while being very proactive versus being reactive, because we all know when you get feedback, what are you're reacting to something, right? And so today's topic in this 30 days of systems that make teamwork, specifically talking about the power of feedback loops and team success, I am going to talk about and show you how feedback loops are very critical if you want your system to actually be productive and to work for you. And again, when we say when I talk about systems, what I'm talking about is the organization, the mechanism, the organism of your team, your organization, the society, the broader society, whatever you consider your system. Think of a car. If you need an example, think of a car. A car typically, like, it needs the entire engine. It needs all the things to run and to be effective. And so think of the system in that way. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk. We're going to talk about feedback loops and why they are important to your team. So what are feedback loops? Let's start there. Feedback loops is what I would consider the connective tissue of all teams, organizations, society, the broader society, the world, the space. Like, it is the connective tissue of all those things. And you know that there is a feedback loop when there is some form of consistent behavior or a pattern that is happening over a long period of time. So you're seeing it over and over again. That is where you can say, there's a feedback loop here. What is it? Right? That's when you can start to investigate. Feedback loops give you the information that you need to know what is working or not. So it does give you the data, it gives you the information. It lets you see things in a more systemic way, a systemic view, or even in the details and the minutia of different things, right? And feedback loops is just information cycling back and forth into the system. And this influences what is going to happen next. So it's a cyclical process. It goes around and around. It comes around. It's kind of like they say, all things come back around, or we talk about karma in this way. We talk about what comes around goes around. This is a feedback loop. These are what they are. So, what does feedback loops do in the system? Well, there's two things that they do. The first one is that they reinforce. And these are what we call reinforcing loops. And they amplify, they reinforce, they self multiply, or they snowball. So it basically enhances or amplifies any given thing, whether it's good or bad. So if it's a reinforcing loop, it is resistant to change. It does not want to change. It wants to reinforce what already is happening in your system. So for instance, the more prices go up, the more your wages have to go up if people want to maintain their standard of living. So, supply and demand, things like that. If you are going to raise prices, you have to raise how much people can make in their jobs, right? This is because it's reinforcing increase, abundance, more is going up. It's reinforcing that. Another example is an interest bearing account. So, where if you have money in the bank, the more interest you earn, which is added to the money already that's already in there, it adds even more interest so that there's even more money. So it reinforces or amplifies what is already there. Okay. So that's a reinforcing loop, when we talk about feedback loops. The second one is that they balance. So one reinforces, the other one balances. This one is consistently trying to find an equilibrium, or in other words, it's looking to maintain or reach a goal or stabilize and regulate. So it is operating whenever there is a goal oriented behavior. So, as an example, if you are in a building where there's a thermostat that's automatic, whenever the temp drops below a certain level, the thermostat detects a discrepancy. There's something wrong. It's too cold. And it sends a signal that turns the heat up and to warm the room. So it's trying to balance the temperature in the room. Another example I have is an Ember mug. Do y'all know what an Ember mug is? I love, love, love my Ember mug, right? Because it's like a electronic mug. I can wash it and all the things, and I put my mug in. It has a little saucer that's connected to an outlet, and it helps me keep my coffee warm all day, right? I'm a slow coffee drinker. I kind of sip throughout the day. So it takes me a couple hours, right? And so whenever the temperature drops, right, I grab my phone and I say, look, Ember, change the temp, right? And I'm trying to balance, and it keeps the balancing act happening, right? It keeps it going. And so the balancing of the temperature is what a balancing loop is. It's what it does, right? It's resistant to change. It wants to keep things the same. It wants to maintain the status quo. Do y'all know systems like that? Do y'all know systems like that? I bet you do. I bet you do. I'm pretty sure you do, right? Now, here's just a side note about both of these type of loops. When we think about feedback loops, they only affect future behavior. So you cannot reverse a behavior that happened in the past, okay? So if you're going to make a decision based on any feedback that you receive, you can't change the past. You can't change the different elements in the system that drove the behavior. You can only make a new decision that changes the behavior in the future, which means that there are some things in the system that is going to have to change as well. Okay. So if you're saying, oh, we need feedback in our system, and we need to have some feedback loops so we can change what happened in the past, that is not going to happen. Literally, it can only shift and change future behaviors. Okay. So this is what feedback loops are. This is the foundation, understanding, there's balancing, there's reinforcing, and it's a cyclical process. I want you to keep note of that. It is a cyclical process. It's always happening. It is not linear. It's not about, I give you an opinion, I give you some details, you do something with it. There is a complete system. Like I said the other day, your system will guide the behavior. Your system will change behavior, not your behavior changing the system. And so when we think about feedback loops, we're always thinking about the system. And this is why systems awareness, systems thinking is so important to your success as a team, as a leader, all the things. So what happens to the people in the system when the feedback loops are you're unaware of them or you don't notice that they're happening? Because I'm not going to say they're missing. Feedback is always happening, but do we notice? Do we notice the feedback that is happening? Right? So what happens is we try to describe things very linearly or very black and white. This is what it is, and we move this way, and this is done. Right? We have a rule book, we have SOPs, we have the way expectations, we have all of these things, and it's written down, and this is what we're supposed to do. This is our governance. Very black and white, very linear, good to go. We should just follow that, right? But guess what, folks? There's context that's happened. There's different situations that happen. There's different people that come into the system, right? So we can't think of things very linearly. We have to be aware of the influence that our feedback loops are doing in the system. We need to see how decisions are being made. And we can't do this without a regard to the other information externally that is impacting the system, but also how this system, your system, is impacting the external system. We have to think about it together. Remember the car I talked about at the beginning? Think about the car. If the car doesn't have brakes, then what happens? If the car doesn't have seats, then what happens? If the car's windshield wipers doesn't work and it's raining, what happens? It becomes ineffective. Okay? It becomes ineffective. So here are the two ways that a lack of awareness of feedback loops can cause in your system and can cause to the people in the system. The first thing is it has a limitation on how much a person can grow. So we limit ourselves from the opportunity, the ability, the capacity to grow when we aren't aware of the feedback loops that are happening. The information that is coming to us that is telling us what's possible, how we should be, all the things, right? If we're not aware of how we're being impacted, this is why impact is so important. If we're not aware, it's 9 times out of 10 there's going to be some problems, right? The system won't function the way it needs to. And so this can how much a person can grow. There will be well-intentioned efforts for improvement. You're going to put a training on the calendar or inside of a training program. You're going to put people as a focus in your DEI programs, possibly. You're going to make it so that you have a decision-making model. You have a way that you're going to do things, right? But again, if we're not thinking about the entire system, there are going to be limitations. I want you to think about this as like when you try a new habit and then you realize that your environment isn't set up for you to actually achieve or be successful. I always say this about exercise. Exercise, we can all agree, right? We can all agree that exercise is one of those things that we are constantly saying that's our goal. And then we realize there are limitations to that. This is why I love the book Atomic Habits, because the book Atomic Habits, he gives how to shift your environment, how to create your system in a way that allows you to be successful. This is why I like that book so much. But with exercise, if I don't have maybe an alarm to wake me up in the morning to get to the gym, if I don't have it on my calendar, maybe I'm not going to exercise. If I don't, in my home, I have a Peloton, I have a treadmill, I have all the things fit for a mini little gym, right? But I know my systems are not the way that they should be in order for me to be successful. So it takes a lot of energy, a lot of focus, a lot of just like, oh, I got to do it, right? It takes a lot, right? And because there are limitations to how my environment is set up, it makes it more difficult for me to actually be successful. So you know what happens then? This is what happens in many environments that I see. So we're going to stay with exercise. So exercise, my environment is not right. So guess what I do? This is the second thing here. The second thing that happens when you lack awareness, you start to shift the blame. to other people or things. That's my husband's fault. He didn't wake me up. Oh, it's my husband's fault. He didn't go take the kids, so I had to go get the kids. And so now I don't have time to go to the gym. Oh my God, this Peloton is not logging on, it's broken. All these things are and the only goal was to exercise, right? And so what we do is we shift the blame to other people, and then we attempt to fix the problem with solutions that are not sustainable. It looks good over time. It looks good. But then over time, you realize that it actually doesn't work. It doesn't work for your schedule. And sometimes it can make matters worse over time. So now I'm arguing. Now I'm mad. I'm bitter. Now I'm like, oh, I can never exercise. I never have time because now I want to shift the blame. And it's because a lot of times we just literally lack the awareness of the feedback loops that are happening. And therefore, because we lack the awareness of the feedback loops, we lack the ability to shift or change our system. Okay. And this happens all the time. All the time. If we just took it down to our organizations, to our teams, to our family systems, we do this all the time. And it really gets in the way of really being successful. Okay. So let's get practical. Let's get practical because I've given you a lot of information. I've hopefully painted the picture in the best way possible in order for you to see why feedback, like I want us to get from thinking surface level and really getting deep. We need to get a little deep. We need to do a little bit more critical thinking these days, not this surface level, black and white, linear. This is what it is, and not yes or no, good, bad. We need to get into more of the nuances of things, right? And so I hope I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. I hope you are, right? And you're understanding. But I want to get practical. We always got to get practical because when I can meet you where you are, that's getting practical, okay? So here are the types and the modes. So I was thinking about this the other day and I was like, there are different types of feedback loops that happen. But then at the same time, there's different modes of how these feedback loops happen. And so I've created this on my own. You're not going to find this in a book. And I want you to understand what these things are because I want you to pay attention to it and see how it's happening in your situation and realize that these things are running the show. They are running the show. Regardless of if you want to take notice of it or not, it is running the show. And so it's focusing on that surface level. These are the areas where I need you to look. Okay. So the first type is financial. We're talking about bonuses, penalties, budgets, pay increases, paychecks, salaries, all of these things. There is a feedback system that's happening in your organization that is based in financial systems. Okay. So if you are not out with your customers and you're not bringing in money from your customers or your clients, you don't get paid. There is an impact to your budget. There is an impact to your bonus. There is an impact to your revenue generation of being able to hire. There are all these things that are happening because of a financial feedback loop. And so I want you to think, where are financial feedback loops happening? And what is the system that's in place right now that I need to look deeper at? Because maybe there's a shift that needs to happen. Maybe the way uh, that we are saying that we're going to pay people or the way that we meet with our customers needs to change in some form or fashion, right? And so I want you to think about it. Financial, this is one way. The second way is behavioral. So praise, being corrected, performance reviews, performance reviews are coming up, y'all. It is that time of the year. You may already be starting to write them. You may already be starting to administer them. You may already be starting them to input them into your platform, whatever platform you use. But the behaviors are going to impact how people move. Okay. Your system of performance reviews, your system of praise, correction impacts behaviors. It impacts how people are going to be. 9 times out of 10, most people are going to be fired up near review time and fired up at the beginning of the year. That is when we got all our mojo. We are energized, we are ready because we got to get ready for reviews. We got to be, the recency bias is real. So let's get it together. Let's make sure that they remember that I'm a good employee and my behavior is going to follow that. Or at the beginning of the year, like new year, new me. We all know that saying, new year, new me. I'm going to do everything. Now I'm going to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym consistently for this 31 days of January. And yeah, I can't tell you it's going to last through February, right? Because the system can't hold you. The third thing is word of mouth or social. So, what's your reputation, customer reviews, recommendations? It's a feedback loop. So, if you're getting some great customer reviews, guess what? You're going to keep doing that thing. I know you are. Don't lie to me. I know you are. Or if you're getting recommendations, you're like, "Ooh, I got a recommendation. Ooh, I need to get more recommendations because this brings a good light shining light on me." Right? So the social or the word of mouth is another feedback loop. The fourth thing is informational. Information that you get from the data. So informational / data from KPIs, survey scores, dashboards, things like that are going to tell you the information you need. Okay, we're moving up, our money, our budget, our return on our investment, all these things, our weight loss number, our ability to eat healthy, all these things are informational or data driven feedback loops. The next thing is emotional or relational. How much trust do you have? Is the morale high? Do we have psychological safety? This is another type of feedback loop. It helps us know whether things are working. How are people feeling, right? And you can ask this question, but it's coming from an emotional place. And the last one is structural or systemic. So we're talking about policies, processes, cultural norms. And this one kind of goes across all these other ones. It goes across financial, behavioral, informational, and relational. Let me say that again. Structural feedback loops is the thread between financial, behavioral, social, informational, and relational. Okay? Because guess what? If your policy is a certain way, then the way I behave, I may be that type of, and if you caught me on day one for this 30 days of system, you'll know if it is the policy says that we're commission based only, my behaviors may look different if I am, based on I just get a paycheck. My behaviors might be different, right? And so I just want you to take notice of that. Understand, I'm not just talking up here. Let's get down here. If you're thinking about the iceberg model, let's get underneath the waterline. Let's see what's down there. Let's investigate. Okay. Now we don't just have the types because these are different types of feedback loops, but we have modes in which they move. The two things are either they're automatic or reactive, or they're intentional and deliberate. So a lot of times in organizations, what I'm saying, or in teams, what I see is that we kind of react to a lot of things in our environment, and we aren't as deliberate as we can be and as we should be. And this impacts the way we show up. It impacts our success rate. It impacts our habits. It impacts our finances. It impacts everything, right? And so these two modes I really wanted to share with you because it is important to know, because this is how you build your awareness. It is. So the first one, automatic or reactive, it's fast, unconscious, it's triggered without much thought, right? So as an example, think of a overdraft fee in your bank. That's financial. So there's this automatic reactive feedback loop that has happened. And now you're reacting to it instead of did you, balance your bank account last night? Did you realize how much money was going out and not coming in. Like being very intentional and deliberate is the other one. Or another example is Slack ping that instantly derails your focus. So you were thinking about one thing and now you're over here. Literally, as I'm on this live, I got a notification from my son's school. They are in Class Dojo, and I just got a notification. I kind of looked over like, ooh, get back. But that was a behavioral feedback loop, right? It's a behavior that has happened that has shifted my focus, right? Because I didn't set up my system with just like, girl, just turn off the phone. Turn it off. Turn it off, right? So that is an automatic or reactive mode. The second one is intentional and deliberate. It's designed, it's reflective, it's built with the purpose. Had I turned off my phone, I would have been very intentional so that I don't lose my focus, so that I behaviorally I stay and I do what I'm supposed to do, right? Because if we go back, if we think about whether it is a reinforcing loop, sorry, if it's a reinforcing loop or if it's a balancing loop, right? So I want to reinforce that I'm not going to get disrupted by a notification on my phone, right? I don't want to get that. I don't want to get that. So until I do, the reinforcement is going to be on the other end where I am totally going to continue to get interrupted. I'm totally it's going to reinforce because I didn't turn off my phone. Or I can balance. We have a balancing loop, right? And so I want my goal is to stay focused. And so I am going to continue to look and then try to balance it. Look and then try to balance it, right? So it's almost like a good behavior, bad behavior kind of feels that vibe a little bit, but it's not. It's information. It's something that you should know. It's something that you should think about, right? So intentional, it will be like, I'm going to have a quarterly budget review that's financial, or I'm going to have a structured debrief all the time. I'm going to debrief every event that happens that's behavioral, or I'm going to have a facilitated team discussion that's relational. So these are the different feedback loops that happen. And what I want you to know is if you don't design your feedback loops, if you don't figure out what's happening in your system intentionally, your team is going to default to automatic loops. And those are almost never the ones that help people be successful on the team. Okay. So, how do you fix these loops? I want you to be fast, get it done, do it. Make sure that you're looking at this all the time, which is frequent. Fair, be fair, stay away from bias. People need to trust that the source is correct. And then I want you to fuel yourself to push people forward. Don't shut them down. Okay. So be fast, be frequent, be fair, and fuel people to move forward. Okay. Fuel them, right? Because this is important. You have to remember that your feedback loops, you have to be aware, you have to understand what's happening in the system, or you will fail. Okay. We don't want no failing. We don't. Now, we don't want no failing, but we all know that even failure gives us the feedback we need on how to improve and how to change future behavior. Okay. But if we could prevent some failure, let's do that, because that's what I like. I hope you like that too, right? So we're going to set up our systems correctly, right? All right. I like that. So here's the takeaway. Feedback loops are the hidden power. It's the source behind every successful team. If you have weak feedback loops, then what's going to happen is people are going to be disengaged, they're going to burn out. But you want strong loops so that there's a lot of clarity, there's accountability, there's forward progress, people are moving. Okay. So if your team is stuck, if you notice that you have a silent team, a siloed team, a team that isn't there's like a delay in moving forward, or there's just some distorted views or negativity, it's not the people. The people aren't the problem. Remember, if you don't take anything from this, the system shifts behavior, shifts the people. The system shifts the people's behavior, not the people's behavior shift in the system. System will eat you up all day. Now, yes, it takes the people to, fix the system and do different things, but the way I behave, it I got to look at my system. I got to see what I can do, right? Systems can be fixed. You can fix a system. You can't fix people. People, we are not machines. We are not meant to be fixed. But the system can be fixed, okay? So if this resonate with you, if you found some information that you enjoy, that you're like, oh yes, I need this for my team, please DM me. Let me know you want something like this. You're thinking about doing something like this, and I am here to help. You can DM me. We'll map out your feedback systems. We'll find the leaks and we'll design some feedback loops that actually work for you. Okay. Because when you fix your loops, you're going to fix your team. You're going to fix how the elements of your team come together. Okay. So hopefully this is well. Meet me for day 4. I believe I'm going to do this tomorrow. If you notice, like, I'm coming when I can, y'all, but I'm going to do 30 days of this systems that make teams work. Okay. So talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in. Say hi if you're watching this on replay, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.